the Big Fat Gay Podcast, where we talk about the things that are weighing on our minds. I'm Dan Oliverio. I'm an author, public speaker, and chubby chaser. And today I am just enjoying the possibility and the reality of going out in public again. I just love this. I love seeing people and being at restaurants and all that stuff and
living a real life.
I had heard stories of how it was in the before time, and I find they are accurate.
Yeah. Well, I've decided that next pandemic, I'm just going to get a beach house with all of my friends and family, and we can all just live together, and then you don't have to worry about it.
That's right. You're already quarantined.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm Trevor. I'm a super chub, and I am, I don't know, I'm the rescue dog. Who's a little shy. Maybe I have a ribbon on my leash being like, don't pet me. No, I don't know. I'm going out. I'm doing stuff sometimes.
Yeah. My name is Michael. I am a chaser, and I've been feeling pretty darn good. Although, I mean, we had kind of a close to home COVID scare, possibly, maybe, but seems to be okay. But my whole family was in town for the 4th of July. I get to see everybody for the first time in like 2 years.
Oh my God.
It was very nice. And I'm finding that I don't have as much of the like return to normal jitters that I think a lot of people are getting. Mm-hmm. So I'm thankful for that.
Well, then I think you thought you would have.
I did think yeah, exactly. But no, not as much.
We were saying we were going to need to use one of those alligator things to drag you out of the like garage or something like that.
Just put it like around my neck and spinning around.
My name is Don. I'm a big chubby guy living here in sunny Hollywood, and today I am the July 4th Grinch. I am the one that had jitters this year. Did not want to be around people. Just sat by my window, glaring at people setting fireworks outside my window, and enjoying the fireworks they were setting off outside my window. So,
all right.
Yeah. But the people,
the people, just leave the fireworks. Just leave the fireworks and go away.
They're the real problem.
Down there with their sparklers and fizz whizzlers.
Love me a good fizz whistler. Love me a good fizz whistler.
That's a British candy, isn't it?
Yes.
And a sex position.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, I've heard they do that.
I was going to say we should dive on in, but we have a mailbag. So
we do have a
that
mailbag.
Beautiful mailbag music. That's beautiful.
We've never actually gotten to hear the mailbag music in episode.
So this is from a nameless listener, just because I didn't copy their name.
Oh.
Recently, I learned that a friend had lost a lot of weight. Of course, I want to support my friend, but I don't know how to tell him I am no longer attracted to him, which was part of our relationship. Aside from figuring out how to broach the subject, I'm experiencing my own inner turmoil with the discourse of it, being angry at the dominant culture and trying not to assume my friend's thoughts or feelings on it, plus feeling selfish and dealing with my own dysmorphia during the last year. Mm-hmm. And then they did kind of the squiggly eye dizzy emoji.
Yeah, the sort of cognitive dissonance of like you care about somebody and you don't want to like, I don't know. So first question, I guess, has anyone had to deal with that in the room before?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, completely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Moving on.
Yes.
Yeah. So there's a resounding yes.
I mean, I guess the first question I would have is, do you need to bring it up, or is it like it could kind of work itself out?
If it's because you don't want to have sex with him anymore and he still wants to have sex with you, you're going to have to bring it up.
Well, then yes. But if it's the kind of thing where you're friends anyway, and one of the benefits of friends with benefits is sex, then it could be something where they don't assume it either.
Yeah. I would actually encourage, I think communication is always best.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. But that said, like before you have that conversation, know what it is you're hoping for afterwards. If you're hoping to continue a long, close platonic relationship, know that. You know, if you come to the understanding that sexuality was the only thing gluing you two together, you got to walk into that knowing that too.
Well, and exactly. And what do you want to be the messaging? Like, are you? I don't think you want to have a conversation where you sit someone down and go like, I just wanted to let you know that I am no longer sexually attracted to you. Like, no, that's probably unnecessary and icky. Mm-hmm. So that's why I'm saying, like, kind of wait for, if you need to have that conversation will naturally arise. If you find they're bugging you and like, when are we going to get together? When are you going to plow my ass? When are you going to, you know, then, okay, then you might have to have that conversation. Yeah. Like Don says.
Yeah. And don't assume how they're going to respond. I have been on the receiving end of that conversation. I've lost a lot of weight in the past, and I had multiple chaser friends that just went, we're good. We're done. Thank you. And the reaction was, my reaction was not what you might have expected.
What was your
Like,
reaction?
well, at that point, I was trying to lose weight. I was trying to change my body. I was trying to change my life. And their rejection of me, while painful, was also an affirmation that I was making progress in the direction I was walking. I'm not saying that it's, that everyone will react that way, but the honesty of it, they may react in a number of different ways that they may not expect, that you may not expect.
That's fair.
There are going to be a lot of emotions involved that people may not even understand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's a whole other element to this question, which is, yes, so there's dealing with the friend directly in that sort of personal relationship, but also the second half really being more about the sort of pressure you feel around having to navigate this at all. Like the fact that there's so much stigma around weight, the fact that society adds all of this pressure on us to look a certain way. And he feels, the person who writes in feels guilty about feeling the way that he does because you have closeness with somebody that's linked to sexual attraction. And now the closeness feels like it's being stomped on because your sexual attraction has gone away and you feel bad because of that. And it's just this whole messy issue.
I've talked about that in my book. I get that question a lot in seminars. Like, so what if they lose weight? Then what? And what I point out, and you and I have had this conversation, Michael, I point out that, chubby chasers, by and large, we have a lot bigger weight range of what we find attractive than the general population. Our weight range, what we find attractive is at least 100 pounds, even 200 or 300 pounds.
Yeah.
Most civilians out there, they start to lose interest after maybe, 30 pounds, 40 pounds. So it's not unreasonable. And usually what happens in a seminar and with a room full of fat guys and fat women, I will say, hey, if your partner gained 100 pounds, it would change how you feel about them sexually. And they all go, yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think we should also address the latter half of it kind of activating the listener's dysmorphia.
Yeah.
Which I think is just especially hard right now because like the conversation in the world regarding just, weight loss right now and losing your COVID body. And I know there was a point, I don't know what I clicked on Instagram. This was last month, or I guess maybe, May during our hiatus. I did something to skew my advertising algorithm to where it was all weight loss stuff.
Oh, wow.
And it was so aggressive. And I kept being like, no, I'm not interested in this.
Yeah.
This does not apply to me. Like reporting it. And then at some point, I don't know, I clicked on something else and it shifted back, but it was just so, uncomfortable and weird and icky. So I definitely sympathize with that. I think especially, it hits closer to home when it's someone close to you and you want to support them, but you're also like, I don't really like, good for you, but I don't want to be engaged in this.
Yeah.
Well, and I wonder, I'm not sure what the dysmorphia is actually referring to. I can think of a lot of possibilities. For example, one possibility is that, and this is often talked about with chasers, you want to date fat guys, but you don't want to be fat yourself.
Right.
And like, what's going on there? If you like fat so much, how come you don't want to be fat? And there are a number of answers to that question. But I think that can also be part of the chaser guilt of like, you want something that you wouldn't want for yourself. Or that you're attracted to something that you wouldn't necessarily be part of. And that can really fuck with your head. The counterexample I always give is, I know a whole lot of straight men who are really into women and who don't want to be women themselves.
Yeah.
That's a really interesting observation.
And just because you're attracted to something doesn't mean you want to be that. And I think the only reason that we even think that way is because in the gay world, if you go to a gay circuit party, they all look alike. They all want to look like each other.
Yeah.
And nobody would think twice about it if people didn't view being fat as being a bad thing.
Right.
Like it wouldn't, as with many other characteristics, you wouldn't think twice about comparing that or saying, well, you don't want to be like me and I'm fat. Like we wouldn't think twice about it.
And nobody said to women, well, if you like tall guys so much, I guess that's why you wear such high heels.
Right. Exactly.
You must want you to be taller than them. Yeah. Like, no, it's not how it works.
Yeah.
I've seen echoes of that in interracial dating, where like accusations against a minority of dating a white person is always like, you're
trying to be
getting white you're trying to get white. It's interesting that's the only correlation I can think of when you start talking about that.
Well, there's the added complication with body size is that it is to some extent changeable. And I say to some extent, like anybody can lose 100 pounds. Just what do you want to chop off? So it's the question of permanence. It's the question of, is it right for your body? And I'm not even gonna go down that road, but that's why we don't have this conversation so much when it talks about race or height. But if we start talking about sexual orientation, if we start talking about whether you're attracted to men or women, there are a lot of people who are very fluid in that capacity, but nobody gets upset. Like, nobody accuses me of being misogynist because I don't date women.
Right. Because you're gay.
Because I'm gay.
Yeah. But that's not something that most people are going to like hold against you.
But if I say, sorry, I only date fat guys, they're like, well, what kind of fucked up sicko are you?
Yeah. And that's what this listener is referring to. That sort of just general pervasive attitude that makes dealing with situations like this, which really should just be between him and his friend, feel so much bigger and heavier than that. And I just circling back to this sort of dysmorphia and sort of internalized issues, and kind of what Trevor was saying about like how do you deal with that without dealing with that when it comes to that friend. I think it really speaks to, I get this a lot just in my own life, having to figure out how to sort of swallow, like somebody says, oh, like you look great right now. Did you lose weight? And first of all, no, I didn't. Or I don't know, maybe I did. I don't care. But like also that is an unwelcome statement to me in any capacity, whether it's being said about somebody I know or about me, or like, oh, did you gain weight or did you lose weight or were you working out? Like, no, I don't. I have issues around that of my own, and any conversation around it that I didn't start myself is unwelcome.
Yeah.
And I think this is in a similar world to that.
Well, and you could just say like, wow, Michael, you look great. And
there you go.
And you'll stop.
Thank you. And I wouldn't have that reaction. I would just be like, oh, thank you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Done.
Well, I'm curious. I mean, maybe this listener can update us later down the road. I'm curious how this goes. And my sympathies for having to deal with an uncomfortable situation, but hopefully they sort of work it out and are able to remain friends. And
I hope the friendship remains.
well, get ready, everybody.
Yeah.
Here we go.
This week's pop culture segment kind of has a theme, which I was thinking of going one way with it, but I think it's going to be a New Zealand horror story.
So you ditched the what the fuck New Zealand?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought of, because the second thing triggered some specific horror themes.
Yeah.
In
We'll save
my
those
mind.
for Halloween.
Yeah. But so first off, these stories were a couple days apart, which was very concerning about like what's going on over there.
Yeah.
Under there.
So the first was
What's
a story
going on
was
down
from
under?
Stuff, which is a New Zealand publication,
Mhm.
and the headline is "Too Fat for New Zealand. Mom can't lose enough weight for immigration officials."
Yeah. So basically, she and her family are from South Africa, and they had immigrated to New Zealand a while back and were sort of living on like a visa situation, and they were applying for citizenship, and so they could act, they'd already put down roots. They'd been there for years.
Yeah.
In fact, her youngest child doesn't know any other country because they immigrated when he was like 7 months or something.
Yeah, very, very young, and has grown up there. And the basically she specifically is being denied citizenship because she is too fat, and the future costs to the New Zealand healthcare system is basically bad for the country. And so they can't allow her to stay in the country. And therefore, but they're uprooting this entire family as a consequence.
Well, and they're very clear. They're very clear. Like, no, we are certainly not excluding her because of her BMI. We're excluding her because of her BMI. And 10 years ago, she had an operation on her gallbladder.
Yeah.
And,
Chronic
has
migraines.
Yeah, like migraines.
she has migraines, yeah.
And because of those health issues, we can guarantee that there will be future health issues that she'll incur upon our health system.
And though she has promised to lose weight like a good fatty, they don't believe her.
Yeah.
Which is really funny because on the one hand, you know, the diet industry and doctors will say, well, you just got to lose weight.
Right.
And the government is actually saying, no, weight loss doesn't work. That's never a permanent solution. That's actually what they're telling her. You can't come in the country because that solution never works.
I'm curious if anyone else has been pushed out of New Zealand for medical costs associated.
Actually, they have.
Yeah. So that I was following some threads on Twitter about this, and Dr. Kat Pase, who actually gave me a shout out on her podcast, a friend of Marilyn.
I love it.
Nice.
Yes. Wrote about her own experience because she immigrated to New Zealand and went through the same thing. But, you know, she talked about, you know, she had more money. She knew who to talk to. So she was able to kind of push back legally, you know, get a lawyer. No, she knew who to kind of the channels to go through to navigate this, but that she went through the same thing and that this is common. And there were other people chiming and being like, yep, like I went through the same thing. It was really hard. You know, I had to kind of go on a crash diet. And it's just like ridiculous, everything about it. And I
mean, her specific quote, which I wish it were farther up in the article, to be honest. Weight is not a proxy for health. And further elaborating that using BMI, body mass index, to measure individuals was completely inappropriate and without any kind of evidential basis.
But if you had a gallbladder operation.
Yeah. That in conjunction with the fat, which
man.
is just like, how many hoops are you going to leap through to try and justify your fat phobia?
Well, and how many thin people got in having medical conditions, but they had a BMI under 30, so it didn't matter.
yeah.
That's what I was curious about.
Yeah.
Like if somebody comes into the country and before their visa's expired, they're diagnosed with an extensive form of cancer, right? But they could treat it in New Zealand, but gosh, it's going to cost a lot of money. Are they going to boot their ass out, or are they going to provide whatever medical coverage is necessary?
Or
I mean, and this is a slightly different situation with this, where she doesn't actually have anything immediately.
Yeah.
You know, but-
her current health.
Yeah, everybody
was
agrees.
specifically.
Everybody agrees she's in perfect health.
Yeah.
Like that's not even an issue.
Like,
it's just that she
so
won't
weird. What the fuck?
or you could, you know, be in perfect health. And like, what if you gain 200 pounds after becoming a citizen? Are they going to launch
you
an
out?
investigation or something?
Right.
Like, what?
Do they kick out their own citizens for being overweight? I mean, come on.
Yeah. Anyway, so New Zealand, you done fucked up.
Oh, but don't worry. Don't worry, listener.
Is there anything else going on in New Zealand, Trevor?
This is too much.
And it was a press release. This dropped. It was like 10:30 at night Pacific time here. And I was shocked at how immediately, like, the shitstorm started on Twitter. So hopefully I'm saying this right. New Zealand listeners, correct me. Otago University released a press release about a new device that would help people lose weight. And it is a...
Go on.
I never thought the tongue patch would sound like a better solution.
Holy shit. Yeah.
It is a device that uses magnets to hold the wearer's jaw shut.
Yeah.
It's basically wiring your jaw shut.
Yeah, it's considered non-invasive because apparently they glue it to your molars and shut your mouth via magnets. It still allows you a few millimeters to talk and maybe get a straw through.
2 millimeters.
2 millimeters.
Well, and apparently it can be shut off in an instant if there's an emergency. They did at least
unlike
put that
jaw
much
wire.
thought
Unlike
into
jaw
it.
wire. Yeah, if you need to be intubated for some reason.
Do they still wire jaws? Is that still a thing?
No.
So why is this okay?
But no.
Because this is non-invasive, Don.
That's why this is okay. They
And why
figured
it's-
it out.
and why
They've
it's
cracked the code.
I mean, it's such a good idea. I mean, imagine the leap in citizenship they'll have.
I'd never be able to lean my head against my computer ever again.
My first thought when I saw this was the reverse bear trap from the Saw movies, which also uses magnet technology.
So they've done a huge amount of backpedaling, as you can imagine,
Yes.
because nobody is happy about this. Even the fat phobes, even the people who despise fat people aren't happy about it because they consider wiring someone's jaw shut cheating.
And they can still drink all the sugary sodas they want.
That's right.
When
It's
the-
hardly a solution.
When you don't even have the people who hate fat people on your side, you know you fucked up. And the defense, the article, the press release goes against this, but in their backpedaling, they're like, well, no, we said this would be good for people who need to lose weight in order to have weight loss surgery.
So
Like-
basically, you have to get it. You have to have your jaw clamped shut with magnets so you can have your stomach amputated.
Yes.
Yay.
And so, I mean, there's been a lot of discourse around this, basically entirely negative for the most part.
Yeah, nobody's coming out in favor of this.
There was a Washington Post article that I read this morning, and it was basically all different people in the medical industry crying out, like, this is the worst thing you could do. One of which it was a doctor saying, you know, before someone has weight loss surgery, we're supposed to be repairing their relationship to food instead of like making it more complicated and then trying to fix it afterwards.
Oh my god! Oh my god!
I mean, just it's people saying it's medieval. It's a horror show.
It gives medievalism a bad name.
You just need to see the diagram in the article to have a few nightmares. That
God.
thing is hideous.
Yeah. So the frustrating, I mean, obviously many of the things that we've already talked about are quite aggressively depressing. But the one thing that's just buried, all right, the paragraph is, the practice of surgically wiring people's jaws shut became popular in the 1980s, but it came with risks. And these are as compared to the non-risks that would be included in this particular device. Vomiting brought with the risk of choking after 9 to 12 months with patients. Patients would develop gum disease after 9 to 12 months. And in some cases, there were continuing issues with restriction of jaw movement. And then the last part, which is really frustrating, and some developed acute psychiatric conditions.
I can't imagine why.
And that's it. And like how, okay, so
God.
those other things, fine, maybe there's ways around it, but how are you completely glossing over the impact this is going to have on somebody who somehow through vulnerabilities in their life decide that this is what they need to do. They do it. And you have proven already that this result through wiring people's jaws shut can cause acute psychiatric conditions. And yet that wasn't even remotely addressed.
Well, and here's the thing. So let's take one of the more obvious things that, you know, this is a great improvement because it's done with magnets. If someone is vomiting, that allows the jaw to open. Who has the key? Who is going to who do you have to go to?
That was the first thing that crossed my mind.
Who do you have to go to get permission to vomit? Who unlocks you?
I'm just kind of imagining like
Surely not.
someone driving. Like I'm imitating someone who is holding back vomit, like with their cheeks puffed.
No, and like, are you authorized to vomit? I mean, who gets to hold the key? Because surely not the fat person, because obviously anyone who undergoes this can't be trusted.
And the weird part is, like, no, this is not the weird part. All of this is the goddamn weird part.
Yeah.
There's no one thing that stands out about this that is less humane or more humane.
They're off your lawn, Don. They're off
He's
your lawn.
become nonverbal.
Oh my God.
Also,
But you could achieve the same effect by taking a really strong rubber band and just tying it around your head beneath your jaw. Just boom.
or just going on a liquid diet.
But I mean, it's so absurd on every level. Like,
But done.
You could save the $15,000 it would cost to have magnets installed in your jaw.
But done.
If you just wrap a tire around your head, great, perfect,
But done.
genius.
It's less restrictive than that. though. You get 2 millimeters of breathing room.
It's Slim Fast. It's a
Dental
juice
slim.
cleanse. It's
I very rarely, I was able to discuss the tongue patch in depth without losing my shit. This one is awful.
Yeah.
And this is why, in my opinion, because this gets at the very root of fat oppression and fat phobia. It is, number one, that fat people deserve a kind of punishment for what they've inflicted on themselves. And fundamentally, number two, that being fat is only and always a problem of managing willpower. That is what this is founded on.
Yeah.
And both of those are such utter nonsense. And I think there is some hope that this is being so roundly criticized that perhaps people are examining those two incredible fallacies.
I mean, based on what Trevor said, the reception to this is pretty much universally negative. But I mean, people put money into
A
developing this.
university medical program developed this in hopes of making money on a patent. Can you believe?
It's okay. So I said the first thing that I thought of was the reverse bear trap from Saw. The second thing I thought of was the chocolate cake shake from Portillo's in Chicago. The
You can
hot
just
dog
drink those every day.
restaurant.
Oh, go
Like
boy.
that. This is, I don't know. I
There are
mean,
ways around
this is
it.
kind of the people who hate fat people argument against the jaw wiring shut. But it's like everything about this is stupid and makes me angry and wants to find everyone involved in this and use magnets to keep their jaws shut while they sleep. Like, and they'll wake up and
And their noses. Every
The thing I would like
orifice,
to ask
I believe.
anyone who advocates this for another human being: would you do this to your pet?
I was just
If
thinking
your
that
pet was heavy,
people wouldn't even
would
do it
you
to the
find
dog.
this acceptable
Yeah.
for the vet to do to your pet?
Yeah.
If you would not feel okay with that, why are you advocating it to be done to another human being?
Yeah, you literally wouldn't have this done to your dog.
but it's even like just the whole thing is like, this isn't new.
No.
And it's like, I mean, it's what Dan was saying, like
Yeah.
fat people can't be trusted, just like go on a liquid diet.
Well, I actually have some experience when I was a little bit of a lad, and like a lot of chasers, when you're a small child and you hear stuff about fat, you're like, what? Tell me more. What? So I happen to remember from my childhood, because again, this is from the 70s and 80s. They did wire people's jaws shut, and I remember hearing my relatives discuss the case of this person who really wanted to lose weight. And so they had their jaw wired shut, but they were having trouble because although they lost 50 pounds, they gained 10 of it back because they discovered that tuna fish sandwiches would go through the blender. And so they were having mayonnaise and tuna fish sandwiches, which, would actually get stuck in the jaw wiring, and that caused a whole bunch of other bacteria. And it was that barbaric. And yes, sure, you've solved that problem of the wiring. Congratulations. Congratulations.
Oh, blah, blah, blah,
There's a lot going on there.
blah.
All right. Well,
Well, let's get on to some good stuff, some positive stuff. We're shaking off where we escaped the reverse bear trap. We're in Fat Watch.
Yay.
It's 2021. Let's get on in.
Let's do it. And
So
this is good. This
Well,
is good
there
stuff.
is a whole lot of medical horror going on. There is some hope, some light shimmering in the distance.
I see it.
And Dan, since Dan is our kind of medical guy,
Mhm.
I'll tee him up. So this is from ASMB, which I forget what that is an acronym for today. But it's an article by a doctor, and it's called Putting Body Weight in Context.
Robert Rosecrans, who is an MD, PhD student in the medical scientist training program at the University of Alabama at Birmingham.
Mhm.
And he wrote this amazing article called Putting Body Weight in Context, where he really looks at the intense prejudice of so many things in medical studies that link bad outcomes with being fat. And it's a huge article to summarize, but to give you just the highlights, one of the things he attacks is how so many of these studies just assume a causal relationship all the time.
Yeah.
And, he really, this is a paper for the scientific community. So it's not just something that came out of salon.com or whatever, where it's someone's opinion. He's writing for other medical professionals, talking about the danger of associating weight loss with these positive outcomes, because he said, you didn't just have a loss of weight or a loss of fat. You also changed the diet. You also changed the exercise. You also introduced medications in some cases.
Yeah.
And he says, but none of that is looked at. They just said, oh, the patient got lighter, therefore that's what caused the positive outcome.
Right.
In the absence of any of that, and he said that would not be tolerated in any other sphere of investigation as a causal connection.
Yeah. And the specific analog that he had, which I think you've mentioned, Dan, in the last episode or two,
Yes.
was if it were about the removal of fat as to get rid of the risks associated with fat, then liposuction would cure these things.
Yep.
And he mentions that, and the one difference he illustrated was, I guess, the different kinds of fat, like liposuction targets a certain kind, and then this other kind. I didn't understand all of that necessarily, but it was a very poignant sort of illustration of how the factors that they're changing to sort of establish causation are not actually about the fat. They're about all of these other things, but at the end of it, it's always, this works for curing whatever, ailment is on the table because they lost weight. Well, that was a side effect of these other things that you did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's two other points he brings up. The second of which is that there are actually people who are so afraid of getting fat as a side effect of medication that they refuse the medication.
Yeah.
That you could take this life-saving medication, but it might make you fat. Oh, well, then I don't want it.
Yeah. He told a story about his dad.
His dad was one of those people.
who was diagnosed with diabetes and refused to take the medication for it at the time because his dad mistakenly believed that the medication was going to make him fatter.
Yeah, it was like metformin. It was something like innocuous.
Yeah. But that's sort of and again, he goes into the article. It's incredibly well researched and detailed. You can see it on our website, but he explains that this is actually quite a common type of belief for people who have dealt with weight issues and are being told that they need to cope with their weight in some way, whether it's losing the weight or confronting their weight or, oh, you're going to become diabetic or whatever, is that they will avoid treatment that they could actually make use of because of the fear of being either confronted about their weight or possibly gaining more weight as a consequence of whatever the treatment is.
The drug Actos comes to mind, actually.
Yeah.
That's another thing to chase down. And so why would they do that? Well, it's because they learned, because the doctors were taught in medical school, that all pathology starts and ends with fat.
When he was in school, he has a recording. I guess he was taking notes, and he has a recording of the professor saying, let's be honest and straightforward here. Most people are obese because they eat too much. Period. Moving on. Next sentence.
Yeah, that was all they dealt with in medical school, and that prejudice is everywhere. There has been study after study of physicians showing their prejudice against fat people. This is not just something that crazy fat people seem to experience or seem to inflict on themselves.
Yeah.
Like there's an active bias against it. There was a Canadian study which said that I think 30 or 40% of family physicians would find it difficult to have a fat friend. Let alone treat a fat patient. So he's indicating there this idea that that anything that's wrong with you, the first place they look is, well, you're fat. And I mean, anybody who's fat and been to a doctor knows this. This is not new. But it's this idea that all pathology in the body stems from fat.
Yeah.
Even though fat is one of the most necessary parts of the body, which is something else he goes into in the article, where fat is responsible for so many other things. It's not just a storage device. It is actually part of the endocrine system. And
specifically showing the mistaken assumptions that scientists were making about how that fat was being handled in the body. Like, again, there's a lot of details you can see in the article. There's far too much to actually cover.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I thought was most interesting, again, I always kind of come at it from the psychiatric angle. And, he was dealing with his own health issues, which he talks about. And he was in the hospital twice for an ailment that is still unknown.
Undiagnosed,
Yeah, undiagnosed. They still don't know what happened. And what he knows is that in his chart, they had very clearly listed obesity because he was fat at the time as a potential risk factor for whatever. Like they're trying to figure out what this problem is. And he had all of these other extreme issues going on in his life as far as like somebody had died. There were other stresses involved, other emotional problems all piling on at the same time.
And I believe he's also in medical school, right?
In medical school, going through the intensity of that. And not once was it mentioned that any of those things could possibly influence what might be happening to him physically.
Yeah. According to whoever took the history and did the chart, none of that was medically relevant. All that was relevant was that he was fat.
Yes. And he goes out. I think we should probably wrap up a little bit, but he basically scopes out to show kind of institutionalized treatments of a lot of marginalized communities when it comes to healthcare, and how sort of what can actually cause people to become fat. And then as a consequence, how the medical system treats those people, it becomes far more systemic than the individual happens to be bad at not being fat. It's actually, there are so many other causes for this kind of thing. And even if there are other causes for this kind of thing, is that even directly related to their actual ailment?
And what I like here is the way that this directly reflects on the New Zealand Medical Association's position, where like we can't let fat people in, they're too expensive for the healthcare system. Well, because they're fat.
Yeah, exactly. So
it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you define the problem as being fat and they're fat, then that's the problem.
Yes.
I think Michael just came up with the best phrasing for something that I've ever heard before. And I feel like I can agree with this statement. I am unskilled at not being fat. I love that. I adore that.
And so many negatives.
That's going on a t-shirt.
Nice. I'll take it. I don't think I've coined any phrases for the podcast yet.
But thank you, Dr. Robert Rosencrantz,
Yes.
for this lovely piece
Yes.
and for standing up for fat people, especially as a doctor, because
Yeah.
that's a big get. It's a big need. And
Absolutely.
yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. So on to some lighter.
Yeah, we're getting lighter as we go on. It's
Well,
we're out of the we kicked over the puppet, Billy the creepy laughing puppet. We're free from the reverse bear trap, and we're out of the warehouse.
We do not see the same movies. Huh?
And so our main topic is inspired by a listener who sent in a BuzzFeed article about this woman who does these videos on TikTok called Traveling as a Fat Person. Her
So
name
funny.
is Mary Fran Donnelly. She's 27 years old. And just had this great TikTok of her kind of going through her hotel room, showing like the parts of the hotel room that don't work if you're a fat person.
I think we need to hear this
Yeah.
because it's although you can't see it if you're fat or if you've been in a hotel room, you can certainly imagine what's going on.
Welcome to our hotel's Fat Phobic. With me, your host, your resident fat ass. Mary Fran. Come hither. Let's take a look at the As one might see,
Yeah.
it looks normal. Would you like to take a pee or a poop?
maybe.
Don't worry, you'll barely fit.
And I have to say,
That is the bane of my existence.
I have to say, we've been in a lot worse positions. Like when she sits on that toilet and says it barely fits. Yeah, of course it barely fits, but we've been in worse than that.
Yeah.
like
That's
every
just the tip of the
airport,
iceberg.
every airplane bathroom in existence.
Oh.
Oh,
Oh,
let Trevor tell you about that.
yeah. I no longer go to. I don't go to the bathroom on the plane because the last time I was in an airplane restroom, it was so tight. If I sneezed, that door was going to blow open.
I don't fit in the airplane bathroom.
Yeah.
So that's a no go. That's
It's a non-starter.
thankfully I have a camel bladder.
He does.
So before I wait till the last minute and like before boarding, I go take a nice pee. I ration my water on the plane.
But we do take this into effect when we schedule our Southwest flights.
Yes.
You could see it as a boon that Southwest won't really take you anywhere directly.
There's always a layover.
That's not true, actually. We're flying to New Orleans for Big Bayou nonstop.
Yeah.
That's just very nice. But usually, like, we can't get to New York nonstop, which is fine because
It's a long ass flight.
Trevor needs a pee break. So usually we land in Dallas. We make them land.
Pull over.
In Dallas. Pull over. I gotta go. Pull over. We make them land in Dallas or Louisville or, God help us, Chicago. We say God help us because that tends to have a very high cancellation rate. We have been stranded in Chicago more times than we care to admit to on Southwest, traveling through Midway.
But this woman's videos, there were two that I saw. And they were both, one, she is charming.
She's so
she is.
funny.
She is adorable.
And so good natured about it and funny
Yeah.
and oh yeah.
But two, every single thing she pointed out has been something that has chapped my ass at some point while traveling.
Quite literally.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, the towel
The
that
towels,
doesn't
yeah.
quite make it all the way around your body. The washcloth that's about the size of a tiny little tissue in my hand. Like that. No,
And beach towels are supposed to be these like huge, fluffy, comfy, luxurious things. And she's like, how am I supposed to go down to the pool with this? And it won't go around her waist lengthwise. It's like, how's anyone? Yeah, it's idiotic.
But so we thought we would kind of share some of our little tips, hacks, obstacles and how we've overcome them.
Yeah.
Trevor's got a bag full.
Yeah. I mean, my big thing is like I pack a lot of stuff when I travel. Because you never, but I always travel with my my big long loofah thing that I've mentioned in past episodes.
And just to be clear, this isn't like the bunched up kind of corsage
Yeah, like
loofah.
unfurls.
Yeah, this
It's
is
like a
basically
sheet.
it's basically it's like a bath sheet that's maybe 10 inches wide and 30 inches long.
Yeah.
And it's abrasive, and you can get it. I love it because it gets behind my back, and Trevor can get all his nooks and crannies.
Yeah, and I like that just because, like, even if the shower's not great and not super fat friendly, I can get everywhere I need to, and that is a great helpful thing. I tend to pack little travel size bottles. I get the little bag of 10 mini bottles, TSA size, and I fill it with all the different skincare products I need because hotels usually don't have great soap and stuff.
No.
It's really hit or miss.
Or if they do, they're designed for their perfume quality, not their their antiseptic quality.
And it'll last you maybe a night or two. There's never enough of it.
Yeah, I mean they'll replace it, but usually it's the case where if he's tell me if this is TMI, Trevor, but if you're getting into your folds, you really want something that will clean and possibly disinfect
and not leave that weird film. A lot of hotel soaps do.
You're not looking for lotion. Yeah,
What is that? It's
cheap,
so weird.
I think it's just cheap soap.
I think it's
I've never had a
supposed to
soap that
feel
did that.
moisturizing, but it just feels like you didn't get it off.
I feel like a glass that's gotten out of the dishwasher with that white stuff.
With the leading brand instead of the name brand.
Yeah, it feels waxy. Yeah.
I will pack my robe because I'm not going to fit in the hotel robe. And it's just a nice thing to have for, lounging or traversing to the pool.
Or greeting room service.
Yeah. We've started to, sometimes book handicap accessible bathrooms just because the other showers are going to be a hassle.
Well, the key is you don't necessarily, not all fat people, need railings and space, but a handheld shower, even for me, is very, very useful.
Yeah.
And so if you've got a big overhang, you're trying to get under that with a shower that comes down from the top. That is not fun. That is not convenient.
Yeah.
Or just sometimes the configuration of the bathroom, the shower curtain's gonna stick to you.
Yeah,
it's gonna be a whole thing, and you're gonna
What
keep
is that
peeling
about
it
shower
off.
The long and the short of it is the shower is going to be the bathroom in general is going to be one of the sticking points in your hotel. Make sure you check it out in advance as best you can.
Which I try to do, as a good chaser husband, I try my darndest to check out the bathroom online before I book.
Yeah, any pictures you can find.
It's tricky because they don't love to show off the bathroom, or it's some generic picture of a sink.
It's a bathroom they have different types of rooms and they don't show you the bathroom that you're going to be getting. That's always the one that I'm trying to figure out. Okay, do all of their bathrooms have the same shower, for instance? Because a walk-in shower, I feel by and large is so much more preferable to a tub that has a shower curtain next to it.
I find a good tip for this if you're going to be traveling and you're worried about this, call the hotel and make sure you're talking to someone who is on property. Sometimes when you call a hotel chain, you're just calling an 800 number and they're somewhere far flung from the actual property. So make sure you're talking to somebody in customer service or at the front desk who actually works in that hotel. And there's such easy questions for them. They know if their showers are handheld. They know how many handicap rooms they have, if they're available, if they book up fast.
I pack a extension cord in my suitcase because I have a CPAP machine, and I feel like hotels are getting better about people need to plug stuff in. What?
They are getting better. Yeah.
It's getting better, but it is still just I'd rather have it in case I need it.
So there's this hotel that I took Michael to a couple of times. We really like it, but recently it just inexplicably on his side of the bed, there was no plug next to the, not even on the same wall.
Nope.
Anyway, I was like, how are you supposed to charge your phone, which most people do next to the bed, much less plug in something important like a CPAP machine. So we had to swap. It was a whole thing.
And just in case you're wondering, let's say about a cruise, extension cords are not allowed on cruises.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, unless they provide it. It's a whole legal maritime thing about in case of fire and things like that.
Oh, interesting.
So that's okay because believe me, we've been on cruises and lots of big boys go on cruises.
Yeah.
All you have to do is just make sure that you arrange with the staff beforehand that they will deliver to your room the very first night an extension cord for your CPAP. It will, because I pretty much guarantee you, Well, even if you do have a plug by your nightstand, it may not be the plug that you need for you're going to need an extension cord. Sometime in that cruise, in that 7 days, you're going to need an extension cord.
Well, I'll also say they sell these, I don't know, things you can plug into, because there's a limited number of outlets. So you plug it into the outlet and it has like little USB things and more plugs, but they have to be certified for cruises because otherwise they'll take it away. There's a lot of stuff.
And they will search your luggage, by the way.
We actually have a friend who maybe we'll have on as a guest.
Oh, yes.
Who is Mr. Cruise, planned some chip chase
Tom?
cruises. Yes.
Yes.
Tom Cruise.
Yes, Tom Cruise.
Oh.
Dan looks so confused.
He's not even fat.
No, not even remotely. It's a shame.
We can have chasers on too. You don't know what he does
I let
behind
Michael on.
closed
That's
doors.
I mean, what other things can you think of as like, what do you run into? I mean, there's a towel thing, which I don't know. You just got to deal with and maybe ask for more towels. I don't pack towels.
So I have a question, and this kind of relates to, I think on our next episode, we'll be doing a whole thing about like planning like outings with other people. But when it comes to like, let's say you're on vacation and there's either a pool and or a beach available, like what are the pitfalls that you look for stuff like that? Because I know, like, for instance, we talked about this recently, walking on sand.
Yep. How far is the car from the water?
Yeah.
Because if they're like in Santa Monica here, it's got to be 1,000 feet from the car to the ocean, and it's just dunes and dunes.
They
of
really
sand.
should have a shuttle service.
Or how about a sidewalk? A sidewalk would
just
be fine.
like a boardwalk. I remember back
yeah.
in on the East Coast, there were boardwalks that could take you right up to the beach.
Yeah, so this is like, get out your tractor treads and because big boy and flip-flops over the sand, that is not going to be fun.
The thing I dread about the pool is the chairs.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I don't trust most of the chairs they put out there.
Well,
I don't.
I will say at a big boy event, it is rather common for chubs to go down because they've got these Melmar chairs, those white plastic chairs.
Yeah.
So the chubs go down, and pretty soon the hotel starts to realize we better get better chairs out there, or we're just going to lose the chairs. Like they're going down 3 a day.
What I'm always kind of surprised about, because I have been at those events. I don't think I've been the person to do it because I know better. Because I'm like, nope,
No, but there will be a 600-pound guy who sits in that little tiny chair with arms, and guess what happens?
Splinters of plastic
shooting across the entire pool.
No, another thing to look at, and you wouldn't think this is the case, and maybe it speaks of like how far flung I go to these events, but there are some events, there are some places where the pool does not have stairs.
Oh no!
Oh, that was Convergence, New Orleans, not Big Bayou. It was
not
at a
Big
different
Bayou.
hotel.
Yeah, different hotel, different place.
There was not.
There are no stairs. That's been the case when I went to MCA in Oklahoma City. And there are various options. It was a gainer event in Lake George that I went to. No steps to the pool. In fact, it was a matter of some commentary how this huge guy, this is at Lake George, like he was in the pool. And I was talking to the guy next to me and like, do we know how he's going to get out of the pool? And all of a sudden, bang, he was out of the pool. We didn't see how it happened. Did aliens lift him up? We didn't know. And so there are many techniques, and as a good chaser, you should know some of them, and maybe we'll do a deep dive on that sometime. Pardon the pun. But yeah, so a couple of things. Does the pool have steps? Is there a railing for those steps? And 3, this has happened. Sometimes there is an electric lift that puts people in and out of the pool or in and out of the hot tub. Typically, they're rated for 400 or 500 pounds, but I've seen people exceed that.
And if you're talking to a hotel and you're trying to scout this out, just asking if they have an ADA approved pool.
That'll do.
Obviously that's only for the United States. It's the American with Disability Act.
Americans with Disabilities Act,
which means that it'll have some sort of access point.
Well,
but that will only yes, if the pool has been that way, and they are only required to build that if they've had the pool remodeled semi-recently.
Yes.
I will say with the ADA thing, that might just mean there's a lift, and that lift may not be rated. It depends. Okay. They really vary. I've seen ones where it only goes to 300.
It depends how much money they decided to put in it.
So the Convergence in New Orleans that I went to, where there wasn't any kind of stairs, there was a point where someone got in the pool without thinking about how they were going to get out of the pool. And I think there was a lift, but it was out of order. And we ended up, there were very heavy metal little, like, side tables at the pool. And we ended up putting one in the pool and having people help him get out because it was, super chub and he wasn't going to be able to use the ladder to get out.
Yeah.
And I think we just people ended up keeping that by the pool in case that happened again.
And I should say, one of the reasons you go to a big boy event is that there's a kind of camaraderie around that where I'm not going to say the guy wasn't embarrassed. I don't know how he felt, but like, believe me, the chasers were not unhappy to help. The other chubs have nothing but sympathy, at least.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's not a horrible situation as you would expect as far as like an environmental thing. Like I said, I don't know how the guy felt. I can't speak to that. But in terms of solving the problem in the life of a chaser at a big boy event, that's like, yeah, we dealt with that. Next.
Yeah. And would be happy to.
Yeah.
Most people who have CPAP machines may or may not know this, but there are travel size CPAP machines.
Yes. You have experience with those, don't you?
I do. Yeah.
How'd that work?
So it works great. The only trick with it is that at least this model, and I suspect a lot of them, it didn't have a reservoir for water, so it's not going to keep you hydrated. Your mouth might dry out overnight. But it is very small, comparatively speaking, and it's very light.
And is that designed for the hotel room or for the plane?
It's designed to be small enough that you could easily carry it on to a plane or just tuck it away in your luggage.
Well, could you, because some people, like, especially if you're doing something transatlantic or transpacific, you want to sleep on the plane, but you need a CPAP machine.
I have seen models advertised that say suitable for airplane usage.
That was my question. Like,
they do exist.
Yeah, I haven't seen anyone use it on the plane. I suspect you could, but yeah, if there's one specifically designed for that. Yeah. The point was, like, depending on what your insurance will approve, and I think a lot of insurance will make you buy the second CPAP. If you have a working one, you may have to purchase the second one, but a lot of CPAPs are like the regular ones are large, they're cumbersome, they're not going to travel easily. Sometimes they're really heavy.
the newer ones are smaller though.
The newer ones are, but it also, I don't know how this happened, but basically Michael ended up having to get a CPAP machine recently, which has been great, except what they gave him is actually a respirator.
Oh.
Not just a regular CPAP the way that you guys would recognize a CPAP.
Yeah.
It is a heavy,
Oh my God.
multi-$1,000 expensive piece of, it's what they were using to put COVID patients on.
Who gave
I
him
thought
this?
they were using CPAP machines for COVID patients
Because they ran out of respirators.
Yeah.
Well, because Michael had it all along.
I know, and he said, like, I mean, he didn't know any better. And then when he brought it home, I was like, that's overkill. Like, I mean, I'm not a doctor, but like, that's not what you need. And he was having all these issues with it. It's heavy.
It's a respirator, of course it is.
Yeah, it's like 20 pounds. And like to try and like lug that around through the airport.
Yeah, but that's not a CPAP machine. That's not what he should have had.
Right. So that's what I'm saying is like, but he didn't know the difference because he'd never had a CPAP
He'd never
machine
had one,
before.
yeah.
So if this is the case for you, that's something to look for. It shouldn't be that heavy.
Also worth mentioning on the subject of CPAPs, if you don't already know, CPAPs are considered medical equipment when you're traveling.
Yes.
They cannot charge you for bringing it onto the airplane.
Exactly.
Yes.
It is not a
They may
separate
try
item.
to take it from you. They may try and put it in the hold, but
No,
they are not able
they're
to.
good about that now. 5 or 10 years ago, you'd have to have a fight with them. Like, TSA would try to open it up.
Oh yeah.
I'm just saying, know your rights on that.
Absolutely.
Another tip is, so I carry on my CPAP obviously because you should. I don't know. I put all like any medications I need or anything with it, just because like I treat that as my like, I don't know, life or death. Like I need this.
Mm-hmm.
I put the most important things in there. I don't remember what trip this was where they like didn't, my suitcase wasn't there. Do you remember this?
Which one?
I think we were in New York and I didn't have any clothes.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh, well, we can give you,
A loaner.
a voucher, like a voucher so you can buy some clothes. I'm like, where am I going to buy? Like, I think it was like $90 or something. It's like, that's going to get me like maybe a pair of underwear and like a shirt and maybe a pair of pants if I can find somewhere to
losing your
go.
luggage as a fat man traveling, that is a bigger deal, much
Um,
bigger deal. And if you're in a foreign country, Like if we go to
I
London,
can't even imagine.
trying to get you 6X in London. I mean, if you can find it, it's going to be astronomically expensive.
Yeah, that was thankfully it was like the next day it came, but I was like, well, I'm just going to hang out at the hotel, I guess.
And they found it. Most people do get their luggage eventually.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't say that's the problem, but I mean, I think if you're fat, you know this. You know, if you're fat, that you don't just like Michael or I. You know, you and I need a pair of underwear. We just go out and buy a pair of underwear.
Right.
It is not the same for Don and Trevor.
And it's important that people, again, like I keep alluding to it, there's going to be an episode coming up, probably our next one, that would go into a lot of this kind of stuff, like the awareness aspect of letting people know that you actually have to sort of manage things differently. And like that, like you're not going to just walk out and get something out of the store.
Or I got a stain on my shirt. I'll just get another one.
Yeah, that's fine. It's fine. So the last one that I was thinking about was less to do with like extreme travel, like flying somewhere, but definitely like if you're gonna go somewhere unknown or for the first time, like also like Jen just said, like checking the photos, checking like if it's a restaurant, checking what the seats look like.
Yeah.
I've been doing that a lot, and just and sometimes you have to be careful because they'll have seats that look like regular, like sturdy wooden chairs, and then you show up and it's actually like one of those stupid like stool chairs that are like 4 feet tall, and nobody's comfortable on those things. Like why?
Those things cause physical pain.
They do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like it's idiotic. So doing some research ahead of time, I think will buy you so much happiness in the long run.
Yep. And again, when you're at a hotel, you have to be your own advocate. If you need something or the hotel's or something's wrong, stand up for yourself. Don't just let it slide.
Yeah. And if you're the chaser, or if you're not even a chubby chaser, but you just have, some common decency,
basic empathy,
some basic decency around your fat friends. Like it's so much more productive actually for you to be the advocate, if that's okay with your fat friend. Because I almost feel like it's part of my job as a chubby chaser to be like the ambassador or the interface, so that Trevor doesn't have to deal with this shit.
I would be touched. Like I've never had an advocate. I think that would be
it's my job.
I think that would be very moving for me.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And certainly at the very least, like in Michael's case, like he has no problem advocating for himself.
Do people know who Michael is? Because they might think you're talking about you.
Oh yeah. Oh God, that's so weird. I feel like I have said his name.
Yeah. This is the second time you've mentioned his name, but not told us that it's not you.
I've said his name on the show before, but I don't know that I've ever actually said I am dating a guy named Michael.
There we go.
The point was, he doesn't have a problem advocating for himself, but I also don't have a problem doing it. And so I'll just talk to him about it. Like, oh, in this specific situation, I was thinking about doing this. How's that for you?
How do you feel about it, Trevor?
I love it because I hate having to be like I feel like I'm the crazy fat person who's like, I don't fit in this chair. Like, I don't know. Like
you have all these unreasonable requests and needs.
Yeah. I mean, I don't like asking for stuff in the first place. So it almost feels like, I don't know, like I don't like having to ask, and I feel like it's a bigger ask because it's like
something that helped me is I'm sort of the same way, believe it or not. Loudmouth me. I'm not very likely to advocate for myself, but if I reframe it to like the next big guy who comes here is going to have to deal with this too, becomes super easy for me to approach.
I was just going to say a similar kind of thing where for me, like, I don't know, I can't possibly put myself in the shoes of it being actually just about me, but it is a lot easier for me to approach anything resembling a confrontation with a stranger, like a host, for instance, if it's in somebody else's advocacy. This is a weird sort of comparison, but the thing I was thinking about was like, I'm afraid of spiders, but if there's somebody else in the room that's more afraid of spiders than I am, I'll go get the spider. Yeah. Because I can be the person who can get that done. And in a similar kind of way, I will be that person, and I will feel better and more confident about doing it if I know it's for somebody else.
Yeah. And I think there's also a difference. Like if Trevor encounters a place he can't sit at a restaurant, let's say, and he has to tell the host, oh no, I can't fit there. Whereas as a thin person with some thin privilege, I get to actually be like, what are you, nuts? Who can? I mean, he can fit there. Why would you even show us that? Like, it's not that I'm going to be nasty, but it's that I can be like, well, of course not. As opposed to Trevor, which is like, I'm sorry to be a bother. Not that you would do that, but when one is advocating for oneself, there is this, it's you're the problem you're trying to solve, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I think there's also just like the thing of like, it's fine one time, but the repetition of it.
Yeah.
Especially like, we kept running into that on the cruise where it's like, I need a seat without arms. Like this is.
Which was a challenge. Well, because we had a big group of big groups.
Yeah. But also just like, okay, they need to find, like there's many available, but it's,
they're on a
dining room and they have
ship.
to, they might have to navigate this tiny space to bring the chair over.
Yeah, we were in a situation where we were traveling with a lot of fat guys. And so they had to provide 12 armless chairs on demand.
Oh, my.
Anyway.
There'll be a part 2 to this. We're going to, there's a lot of good stuff we can talk about related to this. We'll come back next week with it.
Yes.
But to move on, unless any last calls? Great.
Nope.
Done. What is our bit for today?
Well, since we were talking about travel, I figured I'd revisit a classic travel location that in the past we have discussed as being fat friendly, which is Disneyland.
Yay!
Oh,
Right?
yeah.
And that's a place I've actually had conversations with some bigger guys who are like, "Wait, I could go."
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Like, I
since
could go
that
on these
episode,
rides?
I've had people ask me about that.
Yeah, and so yes, I will say right up front, Disneyland is one of the most fat friendly theme parks I've ever been to, and that includes California Adventure across the way. Although California Adventure has more child-oriented rides, so there's more there that won't be comfortable, but they're not supposed to be comfortable.
Right.
You know, like really, it's not meant for adults. But so there are a few things there though that people should be aware of. So I've come up with some questions to help you learn a bit about Disneyland's trials and tribulations.
Okay.
So there are a few rides at Disneyland that might have tight seats for larger guests, although even these rides have very generous seat belts. So the seat may be uncomfortable, but you're going to be able to get a belt around yourself if you really want to squeeze in. If you ask in advance, though, there are often larger seats in each ride available for guests if you ask for them. Which of the following 4 rides does not have ADA seating, American with Disabilities Act seating? Star Tours, the Star Wars themed ride, the Guardians of the Galaxy ride, formerly known as Tower of Terror, the Finding Nemo submarine voyage, or the Indiana Jones ride.
I'm going to say Indiana Jones.
Okay, we got one for Indiana Jones.
I'm going to say finding the submarine ride.
The submarine ride.
I want to say the submarine ride only because I remember trying to get into that ride and it was like, it was claustrophobic, but I don't know. I think Trevor is onto something because he told a story about kind of getting crammed into the seat next to somebody on the Indiana Jones ride. And I think I'm going to go with him on that one.
The correct answer is, in fact, Indiana Jones.
Oh, damn it.
It's the only one that does not have.
Oh, wait, Trevor's right
specific
again? What?
I finally learned to just copy what Trevor does.
I know.
Well, what's interesting is that like the submarine voyage is one that was discussed at length. There is ADA seating that you will access through a different route than everyone else.
I have heard about this. I just don't. I knew there was something, but I couldn't remember exactly what it was.
And the Indiana Jones ride is one of my favorites. I really love it, but those seats are narrow.
The problem that, I mean, because Trevor had a problem with that too, but the thing that you always complain about with the Indiana Jones ride is the jostling with your back.
Yeah.
Because as a heavier person, there's a whole lot more momentum and force going on.
Yeah, you're being flung around in that
Yeah.
one.
And the seats are narrow, but as Don said, very generous seat belts.
Yeah.
But I stopped going because it just would fuck up my back.
Yeah. For me, it hurts my hips.
Yep.
Like
Yeah.
it's just, I'm being squeezed. So Disney's been around for a long time, and some of their older attractions still have turnstiles or stairs.
Oh, jeez.
Right? So turnstiles can actually be more of a problem than the rides themselves on some of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Although all of these attractions now have an ADA entrance that you can use if you ask, so you don't have to deal with the turnstiles if you ask in advance. Which of the following rides does not have turnstiles in the line at all? 1, Pirates of the Caribbean. 2, The Jungle Cruise. 3, Small World. Or 4, almost everything in Fantasyland.
It's Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah. I'm going to say Pirates of the Caribbean.
2 for Pirates.
I think I also remember Pirates not having,
All right,
Pirates.
you are correct.
Yeah.
Pirates is the only one that has no turnstiles of that list. There are still turnstiles out there, but like I said in advance, they have other routes now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if that's a problem for you, ask in advance. Often they'll just bring you around the exit, and you get to actually, like, I actually got to get on the my mom. I took my mom in a wheelchair there once, and got to go the back route onto some of those rides, and it was so fast and so easy.
Just cut the line.
And getting to see parts of the ride that no one else gets to see is kind of fun.
Well, because Trevor, I mean, he's told the story before about twisting his ankle, and the first time he used a scooter at Disneyland, so liberating.
Well, and I don't know, my last pre-scooter trip to Disneyland, I almost got stuck in the turnstile at Snow White. Because that one is really narrow.
Yeah.
And it was, part of me is like, I shouldn't try to do this, but I was already at that point, like I would have to
Just
awkwardly go back through.
Get past everybody else getting out.
And
Which is
I don't
almost
know
worse.
how I really did it, but I managed to get through.
It bent.
Yeah.
I'm not clear why they're still there. Like, they must serve some sort of purpose.
Yeah,
but-
I don't know.
I don't know. They should just get rid of them.
So this one is close to my heart because I'm always nervous getting into boat rides.
Oh,
Which of the following boat rides may have a very slight problem for VAT people? Very slight. And I'll say it again. Like, I've been on all of these rides. I never noticed a problem, but it does exist.
Okay.
1, Splash Mountain. 2, Small World. 3, the Storyland Canal Boats. Or 4, the Grizzly River Run.
I'm sorry. What's the first choice again?
Splash Mountain.
Yeah.
Small World, Storyland Canal Boats.
I'm going to go with Splash Mountain just because there's an engineering to like who gets in when and will you fit between their legs and all that stuff.
Okay.
I know Small World in the past had issues with the boats bottoming out, but I feel like they changed that. I'm going to say Splash Mountain because I know from experience there's some weird stuff with how they seat you and also just like anatomical stuff. The last time I went on that, my belly formed like a vacuum seal. So my legs were perfectly dry, but everything else got soaked.
It's you know how like there's a cutout of a log.
Yeah.
So there was this vacuum seal between the cutout for the log where the passengers sit and Trevor's belly. So like literally, if you've ever seen like the webbing on a kayak where it doesn't let the water in where your legs are, that's what it was for him.
I'll go with Splash Mountain too.
All right.
I feel like there could be some, like maybe even like bumping into
We got
stuff.
3 for Splash Mountain. The correct answer is, in fact, Small World.
What?
Okay.
Small World is still one of the older rides that they have over there.
But what's the problem?
When I said very small, I mean very small. If you sit on the far side of either side of the boat, meaning the left or the right, it still has a tendency to tip and drag to the side. So
Oh, it probably goes slower.
yeah, just a little bit. Again, when I say it's a very slight issue, and if the boat is balanced correctly, you wouldn't even notice it. Which of the following areas of the park is notably not fat friendly? 1, Mickey's Toontown. 2, New Orleans Square. 3, Frontierland. Or 4, Main Street, USA.
They were tearing down parts of Toontown.
Toontown is not long for this world.
Yeah.
It's going. I'm going to say Frontierland only because there's so many things like the canoe rides and the fort you got to climb into and out of. Like,
And,
if you're a fat kid, that's going to be miserable.
Thunder
possibly.
Mountain Railroad, I don't think is particularly fat friendly.
I don't know.
It's
Trevor's
all
fine.
right.
Is it okay?
It's just a lap bar.
I will say I've been on Thunder Mountain. I've really enjoyed it. I had no problem with the lap bar. My knees were
Yeah.
bruised. It's
Yeah.
not tall friendly.
Yeah, I have the
Okay.
same problem. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to go Frontierland, I think.
Okay, 2 for Frontierland.
I think Frontierland as well.
All right, 3 for Frontierland. The correct answer is Mickey's Toontown.
Yeah, we don't go on that.
Mickey's Toontown is designed for smaller kids, and the rides were sort of scaled down accordingly. So if there is no ride there that is really
It's
recommended
true.
for larger people.
Yeah.
And
I
it's
guess
probably
that
why
makes
we've
sense.
never ridden anything in that whole
I don't
area.
really even know what is there.
Well,
there's
what's
like-
left?
It's
I mean,
very kiddie oriented. Like it skews to the youngest theme
Roger,
park.
Roger
Rabbit.
Rabbit, I think, was the only thing worth investigating there as an adult.
Yeah.
Yeah, as an adult. Yeah.
Last question. There are only a handful of rides at Disneyland that are not mostly fat friendly. Which of the following rides is the most fat friendly? 1, the Indiana Jones ride. 2, the Matterhorn.
Ooh.
3, the Incredicoaster.
No.
Or 4, Space Mountain.
Oh my God, what a choice.
I would say out of those, the Matterhorn.
I don't
Really?
know. Yeah, he's got a point.
Well, I haven't been on the new Matterhorn. I'd only ever been on the old
It's the
one.
same idea. You're sitting on a bench with the bench between your legs.
Yeah. But the old one.
No, you're not. They changed that. Sorry.
Yeah, the old one, you were sitting like tandem style, like your legs around the person
Yeah, no,
in
this
front of
this
you.
this is like a bucket seat. What's the list again? Boy, I don't like any of those.
1, Indiana Jones. 2, Matterhorn. 3, Incredicoaster. 4, Space Mountain.
I got to go
I
with
think
Matterhorn.
Indiana Jones, I think. I mean, it's not necessarily
Okay.
comfortable because of the mechanics of the ride itself, but I think fitting on the ride and being able
Yeah,
to do the
yeah,
ride.
I can see that. I can see that.
All right.
I'm going to say the Matterhorn because I think it was Cliff that told me it was really fat friendly.
I mean,
and it like kind
once
of
you get in, yeah,
it was once you get in, it was, but it was also I felt that was another thing where it was really jostly for me.
yeah, it's very bumpy. Yeah.
The correct answer is actually the Incredicoaster.
What?
Really?
The Incredicoaster is just wide open seats. It has a pull down bar,
It does,
but otherwise it's completely fat friendly. I've ridden it multiple times. I completely enjoy
I
it.
guess because you never ride roller coasters.
Indiana Jones has the narrow seat. The Matterhorn actually has a spacious car, but there's absolutely nothing for you to hold on to help you get out once you've gotten in.
Correct.
And Space Mountain is just sort of notoriously teeny.
Yeah.
I think
So-
the Incredicoaster would be tough for, well, I don't know. Yeah.
Because again, there's nothing in front of you. You just have to pull down the bars.
I mean, I
and
have to
bars
admit
will
that was
go.
always my spiel to try to get Trevor to ride with me, but
I don't like roller coasters.
yeah, you're not
okay.
going.
I love the Incredicoaster. It is my favorite coaster in
Thank
California.
you. Me too. I will go with you.
Well, when we do the Big Fat Gay Podcast live from Disneyland,
On the Incredicoaster. So special thanks to plusmommy.com for their in-depth assessment of everything fat-friendly at Disney. Check out their website if you want to plan a visit. It's so impressive, the list that they put together of every ride, all of the things that you might worry about. There's a list of every ride that has a line with a turnstile on there. It's very comprehensive.
Nice. That's a good resource.
There's also a Facebook group, plus size Disneyland, Disney Resort guests that people are constantly giving advice, asking questions.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right.
So if they wanted to find links to any of these places, Trevor, where would they go?
Links and logs.
Our listeners, our dear listeners.
we're on Facebook and Instagram as @Big Fat Gay Pod. We're on Facebook as Dan is going wild. We're on Facebook as the Big Fat Gay Podcast. Leave us 5 stars there. Leave us 5 stars on Podchaser or iTunes. See the articles we talked about at www.bigfatgaypod.com.
Yay.
I wish you people knew how weird it was for us to be doing this with the music for the
Yes.
very first time.
I loved it.
That's normally just like in my head, my heartbeat doing that.
Yeah. You got to get used to it. We have to do it live one time.
Maybe you're listening to this through the little the Billy doll, and you have to get out. You're in the reverse bear trap. It's happening. This is Billy's the doll from Saw, where we're gonna watch all the Saw movies.
No.
And you're trapped. But then it's Fuchsia comes back. It's Fuchsia 2.
Yay.
It's a crossover with Saw. She helps you get out, and now you're gonna go on the Incredicoaster with her. So
Watch out.
The Billy doll is a gay porn doll to compete with Ken. Don't you know anything? That's what I always thought.
Billy is the puppet that Jigsaw built for his son who died, and then he made it into his creepy monster messenger.
That's not what I see in the gay porn stars. Billy comes in assorted colors.
But only one cock size.
Okay.